don't understand why you're 40 years old and playing the game still. So.
Well, I mean, what game do you think you're going to be playing when you're 40? When do you think you're going to stop playing games? What's the age? What's the cutoff age?
When you're out of high school and college.
You're a high school kid?
Yeah, I'm in high school. Yeah.
How old are you?
Why does it matter?
Well, I mean, you foresee yourself in the future quitting something you love, like video games? Do you not love video games? You just cruise through it.
I mean, I think it's a little bit of a waste of time when you're that old. So.
Well, how do you know? You're not old yet. I mean, I can think of probably reasons that video games would be a waste of time for a high school kid, too. Do you have a 4.0? Are you in honor classes to get more than a 4.0?
No, but...
You know what I'm saying? There's more things you could be doing to improve your life than playing video games, too, right?
Yeah, you study and not play games.
Hey, just recreation, man. Having fun. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
All right, then.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Honey Badger Arcade. This is the Weekend Culture. My name is Brian. I'm here with John, the problematic white guy, and our special guest, reality-based host. I forget, Ryan. I mean, that's the middle name, right? I'm sorry. I should have done my research. But yeah, reality-based. So, are you there, Ryan? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I muted myself temporarily because I wanted to actually watch the show and have the chat up. So
I see.
It's great to be here, my good man. I'll just press Rumble's chat pop up so I can see the chat just in case folks want to speak their minds. And it's great to see everyone. I hope you're all doing well.
Yes, and welcome to the show, sir, and welcome, John. How are you guys doing? How you doing, John? Uh-oh, you're talking, but I can't hear you. Are you?
Can we swear on the show, Brian?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
totally fine.
Oh, for fuck's sake, John, what's the matter with you? Wow.
He's getting like, so it sounds like the thing isn't quite plugged in. That's what it seems to be. Like something's not quite plugged in because I get like a little spike of sound and then like I lose him right away. Well, you keep working on that. We're gonna go ahead and just get started. But I'm gonna ask that you guys please give this stream a like. I am still streaming on YouTube right now because that's generally where most people are watching me. Although today I do have more people watching on Rumble. Who do I have to thank for that? It looks like there's like 11 people watching. Is that you, Mr. Reality Based? Is that your doing?
I have no idea. Unfortunately, I haven't shared this out on Rumble. Maybe I should. I'll do it real quick.
Or share it on X. Share the Rumble link on X. Maybe that's what it is because I shared it. Yeah.
Oh, X, despite the fact that X has been malfunctioning like a motherfucker, because it has been.
All right.
Despite that, it's been a great source to share out content, especially Rumble related content, and I'm very grateful for it. I think there's a reason though that Twitter had so many employees thinking back on it.
Well, I think what's going on with X, my personal belief is that it's under constant DDoS attacks. That's what I think is actually going on with X because today I was trying to look at my
data center in Oregon that there was a fire at that destroyed a whole bunch of stuff.
I can hear you twice, John.
Weird.
You did twice the work for some reason. All
right.
Well, it's all right. Maybe we just have to while you're figuring that out, we might have to just listen to Meta John for a little while.
Indeed.
But okay, yeah. So thanks guys for joining us on the show. So I guess we should just jump into the topics, but please give this stream a like wherever it is you're watching it. I'm trying to push Rumble. I have been ever since I got on Rumble. And it looks like we're kind of moving towards that because those of us who are, let's say, dissident voices are getting pushed out there. You know what's funny about this too, before we get into that? I noticed that so you have this situation, right, where YouTube and other mainstream, Facebook, Instagram, and what was when it was Twitter, and it was kind of controlling who could talk about what. It was controlling the conversation, right? By throttling people, by hiding them with the algorithm, by preventing their reach or what have you. And then Rumble comes along, one example. Then Twitter gets bought by Elon Musk, and he changes it to X and opens up at least a lot more free speech. I wouldn't call it absolute, but it's a lot more than it was under Jack Dorsey. And then Rumble comes along, and all of the people who were doing poorly on YouTube either leave it altogether or they got banned. And so they were forced to open up Rumble accounts because they wanted to continue making content. And then Rumble gets referred to or sort of classed as a right-wing media hosting website. Like it's political inherently. Like that's how people are framing it. I was just having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and they were saying, it was somebody I work with. I'm not going to name any names. It's not important. But they were like, well, maybe we should focus on Rumble more. But I don't know if our content is in line with conservative views. And I was like, it's not a conservative platform. It's where people who are being censored end up going, and it just so happens that those people lean right or are even like really far right or something. But the point is that it wasn't like the guy who created Rumble was like, I'm going to make a political YouTube competitor, and it's going to be right wing. No, he said, I'm going to make one that's more free speech, and it just so happens that it attracts those people. Does that make sense?
Right. Oh yeah, totally. Is my mic situation better? I think it had it doubled up. All right, cool. But yeah, no, it's like you said, it's a free speech platform, and so when it came out, it just got politicized, and so that's why I think that you see, and that's just kind of what the hive mind kind of mentality of it is now, is that it's just this thing for political content stuff. But no, it's all about freedom of speech and expression.
It's almost like free speech itself is, whether you like it or not, a political topic, right?
Right.
Yeah, of course it is. It's absolutely essential. I mean, for me personally, considering my circumstances, I was just wiped out. Okay, I've actually reacted to my whole situation, Brian, very positively. Unlike most of my colleagues who are either sad about it, pissed off, in denial. I'm sure a few of them behind the scenes are cheering. I'm sure they are, but they don't have the bollocks to do it. But for me personally, I think this is a fantastic opportunity to lead the way in regards to the Rumble revolution. We're up to 619 followers now on Rumble. Fingers crossed we can keep on going and keep on growing. I do expect a plateau eventually. That's understandable. But considering all the connections and contacts that I have, combined with the obvious sympathy I will get for being just mass deplatformed. Yes, he says controversial things, but I'm not a woman. I'm not Dobby. He should be able to speak his mind. And I personally think over the next few years, I will gain just as much, if not more, support on Rumble compared to YouTube. It took me 4 years, Brian, just to give you context, from late 2021 to, it is practically mid 2025. I went from nowhere to just under 3,600 subscribers. That's followers, to use a Rumble comparison. And hopefully it takes me a few years to get back there. Fingers crossed. And I'm very thankful for everyone's support. I make lots of videos. We're going to make lots of shows. I'm going to debut a game stream on Rumble, reality-based versus Chrono Trigger. Great classic, older than me, and it's aged far better. And hopefully over the next few years, I can expand the power base of reality-based, bring in more creators to Rumble, or at the very least encourage them to upload their Rumble stuff equal to that of their YouTube stuff. That's the bare minimum. But at most, maybe a few Rumble exclusive shows just to really pull people in. I'm actually amazed, and John can tell you this, and we'll pass it over to John. I'm amazed at the outpouring of support, and I'm very grateful for it too. I think the most prominent creator to back me up, or creators, was Grums, who is loved and hated in equal measure, and Yellow Flash. So it's not just Hypno and Smash. It's not just the regular prominent connections. We're talking about some other prominent creators who have reached out to me directly and made it clear that if I needed any help, that they could provide it. And I'm just like, this is fantastic. Thank you for deplatforming me. I'm building bridges with people that I never thought I could. Could you imagine getting Yellow Flash as a guest for a Rumble exclusive? That would be insane.
That would be awesome sauce, dude.
So let's back up a little bit,
Sure.
Roger. So I want you to tell me, like, what happened to your channel? Like, what's the story? Because a lot of I don't know if the people who watch me know. I have been doing this a long time, but I seem to remain on the fringe, on the perimeter for some reason. So I'm not really plugged into. I don't want to call it drama because it sounds a little too dismissive, but there's definitely like some inner working, some whisper network crap going on. So why don't you tell everybody about like what happened to your YouTube channel?
Okay, so it's the 24th of May, 2025, folks, as of the making of this show. Approximately 3 days ago, at around this time, in fact, 3 days ago, I was deplatformed from YouTube, and wasn't a channel strike, it wasn't 3 strikes, you're out. It was a complete wipeout, folks, and I was sleeping while it happened. So I was taking a nap. It's getting warm in the UK now, and by warm I mean 60 to 70 Fahrenheit. I would not survive in the US. I really wouldn't. And as I was sleeping, my colleagues were like, "Oh no, Reality Based has been banned from YouTube. You've been wiped out, gone." And they first noticed it because their memberships got suspended.
Yep.
So that's how they noticed. Thankfully, though, folks, and I can say this right here, right now, all the donations I got from YouTube in April have been given to me already. Hopefully, they will do the same with May's donations in late June, because that's how it operates. So I've got about £550 they sent me now. That's about $700. And then I got £700 waiting for me for
next month,
from
possibly.
May's donations into June, which is nearly $1,000 US. So yeah, if they don't give that to me, I'll kick up another fucking fuss because thieving bastards. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you'll end up getting that because the deplatforming happened on payout day. So I think that they just had an idea of
I still have an AdSense, John. So that's why I know the channel may have been banned, Brian. The channel may not be accessible, but it still exists in YouTube's system. They just closed it. They just closed it off. If they killed the AdSense as well, I would have known 100% I'm never going to get my YouTube channel back. But I'm 99% sure they won't give me back under any circumstances, barring a regime change, which will never happen. But the AdSense is still up. The YouTube AdSense is still up. So I think I'll get all of the donations, because if they don't give it to me, I will raise fucking hell.
Yeah.
Because if they don't give it to me, Brian, the precedent it was set for my colleagues, Hypno makes low 5 figures a month on YouTube. He made low 6 figures a month last year. If that happened to him, he would go ballistic.
Yeah.
And John would agree. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, and that's why I'm pretty sure you will ultimately end up getting the final payout. Just simply because Toasty went through it, where she got demonetized, of course, not fully deplatformed. But this is kind of the thing that I've been talking to Ryan about the past few days. Is his name Ryan Roger Athe means quite literally it means King Spear Chucker at the gate. So I've told him since this whole thing happened that I'm kind of relieved in a way, because people, have been hearing me talk about this for months since Toasty's demonetization. When you build a building, first you write blueprints so that you actually, the function of the building follows the planning, right? And so we've talked about it here over the course of the last close to the year that we've been doing this show. The terms of service policies that exist, those were done for people who seek safe spaces and all the kind of, fuckery that we're dealing with that has led to all this overt wokeness. And that's how they got into these positions of power to begin with, was using covert means. And so over the course of this last year plus of the Gamergate 2 kind of activities, which is really just an extension of Gamergate 1, obviously, they keep, constantly coming up in the court of public opinion looking like constant rake steppers. And so I think that they finally decided, look, if we're not going to win on the streets, let's go back to a tried and true effective tactic, and we'll just use it as our long-term strategy now. And we'll undermine these channels by doing mass report brigades, get them to where, they either get strikes and warnings slowly but surely, or they'll get demonetized or fully deplatformed. And so this to me just seems, and it's worked. So expect it to continue, anybody. And if you're not already, I know, I think we're doing a Rumble exclusive or else on the mobile today for YouTube. Brian,
we're on the mobile layout.
Okay.
No, it's not a Rumble exclusive. We're on the mobile and the horizontal. Although, again, mostly people are watching on Rumble right now, which is good. Because what I would like to, the only reason why I'm still doing it on YouTube is because I'm trying to get the people who watch on YouTube to move over to Rumble.
Right. And that's basically what Toasty and I are doing with her channel as well. Because she's able to apply for remonetization next month. But we're just going to use that as kind of a induction point to try to get people to join us for the Rumble streams. But basically what I was saying is, everything that has happened over the course of these last few months, I've been talking about this. Somebody made one of our viewers, QJ, he sent me an AI image this week of me sitting at a computer desk with a crystal ball, because it's like all these things I keep talking about keep happening, whether people want to hear it or not. This is what you need to know. This is an effective tactic. It will keep happening because we've only just seen the beginning of it. Ryan's not the end result.
Right.
I believe they have much larger, targets in mind. And so they're trying to destabilize the base that those larger platforms kind of are connected to, so they can work their way up and establish a methodology that works. And so that's why Ryan is, currently deplatformed, Toasty's demonetized, Hypnotic's sitting on one strike right now, and they gave Smash a significant warning, and he, I believe, almost got a strike or some. I think he's under a warning phase or something like that. Yeah. So there's all these things that they've done in just the last 3 months alone, and they have all worked every single time to a degree. So why would they ever stop doing this? So if you don't think that it's important as a content creator to ensure yourself, because what we're going through is this Gamergate 2 is quite literally more about freedom of speech and freedom of expression than it is any one single thing like SBI or Ubisoft or just any of that stuff. Those are all symptoms
or highlighting problems with the film industry to build a bridge to get into it. John
Right. And so that's the thing, is like what we're dealing with is this was planned out. Like, they infiltrated the game industry back before the original Gamergate, because that's why I say we are still in the original Gamergate. We just call it Gamergate 2, just like World War II is an extension of everything that played out through World War I. But it's easier to call it something new and fresh, but that also unfortunately keeps people embedded in the surface layer of reality, and they don't actually think about how far back these things go, which is why I've been able to actually predict all this stuff, is because I'm not looking at things in a 6-week, 6-month window. I'm thinking about stuff that goes back 10, 15, 20, even 30 years, because what they're doing in the game industry is what they've done throughout other forms of media. I have been a proponent of just I guess boycotting Disney since the 90s. I do not buy their shit as much as humanly possible. I would much rather sail the high seas to get all of these kinds of things or anything like that when they inadvertently end up making something that's decent. But ultimately, what Gamergate 2 is about, and the conversations that we need to start having, we can't continue to have on YouTube, because if you start actually doing that, then you are susceptible to everything that has happened in the last few months to the creators that we just mentioned, and of course Ryan, one of them being here with us
John,
right now, being deplatformed. Go ahead.
Well, John, you should know I am the Disney expert when it comes to looking at that company,
Yes.
especially its latest release of Thunderbolts, as I nearly caused John to spit out his coffee. Thunderbolts is a great example of, for the most part, there are a few exceptions. Cada's the only exception. If you like that film, you're compromised. Except for Cada, although he's part of Geeks and Gamers now, so he's the DEI hire, another one. But yeah, my deplatforming has actually been the best thing that's happened to me on my creative journey, Brian. I dare to say right here, right now, that I was taken off the wrong platform. I don't mingle with fellow creators on YouTube. Let's just say that. But we've got Rumble, we've got X, we've now got more and more often now Discord, and I'm sure we'll find other avenues. I mean, it's getting down to direct email at this point. How long before that gets deplatformed, as it were, man? But I appreciate everyone's support, and I'm just doing what I usually do. I got a lot more time free now, Brian, because I'm not on Will's show anymore, because I'm not on SNH anymore. I can get the first good night's sleep.
So wait. So you got removed off of YouTube, but does that mean that people that are still on YouTube won't have you on because they're afraid of what it will affect their channel?
They can't take the risk.
Not in a prominent role, not in a reoccurring role. So it's
Will can't take the risk because of family.
Well,
can't take the risk.
I get it. No, I get it. But yeah, I mean, like, I'm not gonna do that. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing.
Like, I mean, look, I'm not judging them though. Like, I'm not saying that they're like not. I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to throw shade at the people who won't do it. I'm just saying that their decision is exactly the desired result, because it's not just about deplatforming one person. It's about the chilling effect that's created from that. I remember when, and this was during Gamergate, which I would say that because I've been involved in Gamergate before Gamergate started, I was actually like talking about this sort of like woke infiltration, or at the time we were just calling it feminist, because that's what it really is, infiltration into these cultural pillars that were built up and supported by people like me, people who just liked the creativity and enjoyed art and good stories, and gaming was just one of those ways. And I knew that it was obvious to anybody paying attention that was like going to be the next big frontier of our entertainment, because it's like taking it to another dimension. It's adding interactivity. And of course, the activists wanted to be involved because they saw it as an opportunity to inject their propaganda. And it was like the one thing they didn't control, because it was like this small thing, this niche hobby that was like for nerds and outcasts. So they were focused on music and film and television and the news and literature, and they ignored that. And then that became big, and now they're like, oh, we got to get in there, right? And so like I remember, because I was talking about that stuff, InfoWars used to be on YouTube, Alex Jones' show.
Yep.
And they banned him, and they used, I think it was the shooting. I can't remember the name of it, but they used the shooting, the Sandy Hook shooting, right, as the pretense to do it. It wasn't because there was actual harm being done. They were just looking for anything they could use to get rid of him, and they did. And the thing is, a lot of people on supposedly our side were throwing him under the bus because they were like, well, that guy's not one of us. He's an extreme, conspiracy theorist, crazy person, and all these other things. And because people didn't want to be associated with him, they basically like disregarded him. And I said, well, if you do that, you're telling them that it's okay for them to do it to you at some point. And sure enough, other people who are, basically once you get rid of what they call the most extreme person, then the next most extreme person becomes the most extreme person. Right. And then that person gets a target. And then when that person's gone, then the next person is gone, right? So I remember there was a channel I used to watch on YouTube. I still watch on Rumble. it was called Free Domain Radio, hosted by a guy named
Oh.
Stefan Molyneux, right?
Mhm.
I actually had Stefan Molyneux on my show once, not this channel, but the other channel a while back, and I liked his channel. I still do, you know. And I mean, we don't agree on everything, and that's fine. Like, he's an atheist, and I'm not. But like, the point is that he also was getting targeted after the Alex Jones thing, and even Molyneux warned people. He said,
Mhm.
you know, if you guys support this, then he's gonna come for people like me next. Like the YouTube and like not just them, but
Right.
like all of these institutions. And sure enough, Molyneux got kicked off of YouTube, and now he's on Rumble, and he's doing fine. But he has to scale back all of his content because his content was becoming too popular.
Mhm.
Then they did it to Steven Crowder. Well, Steven Crowder
Right.
took himself off of YouTube, but like,
Mhm.
you know, over time, Steven Crowder was constantly in legal battles with YouTube, and it was draining their resources because he became the next most extreme guy. And there's nothing extreme about any of these people.
Right.
So I guess I said that to say, coming back to what you were saying about these, you know, Will of the Fans and Hypnotic and stuff. Again, I'm not throwing shade.
And
But-
Smash JT. Smash
Smash
JT is taking it the worst, man.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's so distraught. But we
Yeah.
actually, Brian, we actually did some research yesterday, and this again is one of those things about the arbitrarily vague terms of service that are up to their discretion of enforcement. And so, in their terms of service, what it says is you can't have somebody who's been banned in a basically a common role, reoccurring constantly.
Mhm, mhm.
But as I recall, you were planning on having Ryan as a guest here before this deplatforming even actually happened.
I was originally
So-
just going to sit down and talk politics with him.
Right.
Because
And so,
I saw that Ryan had a conversation with Smash JT, and I'm not going to go down this like drama rabbit hole thing, but
Yeah.
and
That's
then
fine.
I saw there was like some kind of infighting going on between the sort of like, you know, Smash JT side of things and the more like the people like Jonathan Trent and John Delarose side of things. And I wanted to bring a little bit of clarity and, you know, to that, because I don't want to make that a conversation, but that was one of the things I wanted to talk to Ryan about, because I think that I know where they're coming from, but they're not doing they're doing a really poor job of approaching the subject, and I think they're going to end up doing more harm than good, because they're turning into Pharisees, which I don't know if you guys know who the Pharisees were, but that's what they're turning into. And I think
they like the
purity-
appearance of doing good, but not actually doing good.
Yeah, well, the purity spiraling is a problem. And that's something that happened when in the first Gamergate, because somebody in the chat said, Zeranx, who's like been follows me from the Honey Badger Radio side of YouTube. He says the reason why Alex Jones was cast off by those people during Gamergate 1 is because the majority of those vocal in Gamergate were/are left wing, which is true. So like you have these supposedly moderate leftist voices that were like the loudest voices in the first Gamergate, and they ended up controlling the Overton window, which is why Gamergate didn't get anywhere, well, at least not significant, right? Because they still wanted to have their cake and eat it too. And so when somebody like Alex Jones got banned, the principle of free speech, the principle was thrown out because he was on the wrong side. So yes, it was because of that. And that's what I'm talking about. The purity spiraling was the issue, because you have people that are like, well, this Gamergate should be this, and Gamergate should be this, or the culture war should be like this. And that's how you get people like, you know, James Lindsay, who on the one hand does excellent research into all of the stuff with the mystery schools and the Marxist, you know, schools and all these like massive figures and all the stuff that like it's all really good, but the primary inspiration for him doing that is not that the left has to be fought and beaten, but that if we don't, there might be a more terrifying right-wing response to the left, right? So James Lindsay's operating as an example. I don't want to talk about James Lindsay today, but he's an example of someone who is operating from the premise of we have to preserve liberalism. We have to go back to the 90s, is what everybody says. The 90s was perfect, which it was not. If you guys remember Rodney King and O.J. Simpson, but anyway, it was a mess. And like PC culture was huge then too. But like this is the problem. So the purity spiraling is what concerns me. And so this is why I was talking about, like, you know, the thing that's going on with what happened to your channel and your conversation with Smash JT, and why I wanted to have you on to talk about that stuff. But unfortunately, you know, this happened to your YouTube channel. Do you have any inkling as to who did this to you, or is it just YouTube like looking for something?
Well,
On observation and belief.
Yep.
On observation and belief.
Yes. Thank you for that, John. No video nor show was referenced in the ban. It was simply a permanent ban from YouTube on the grounds of harassment and cyberbullying without any reference.
Oh, they just a generic blanket claim that you were cyberbullying?
Right. There was a curious thing that did happen, though, during the time of the banning, is a video that came up involving a former Kotaku journalist, I believe, got age restricted. Which seems like
very weird.
Very
I found
weird.
that very weird.
Right. And so we can't point to anything that got tripped specifically, but there is this weird kind of element in this whole thing that happened. That's kind of like, I wonder if this person who's had their new YouTube channel for under 6 months just got monetized, you know, just barely just got monetized, but already has a YouTube creator platform manager. That's an odd thing for someone to just kind of like have that much access that early, like to get a YouTube manager at basically 1,000. I think she's still under 2,000 subs over there.
Yeah,
I've never heard of that before, especially for a channel that has no. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a channel that has no video library. It doesn't have any significance beyond, you would think, a niche-based audience at this point. So their level of access there with the people inside the office was odd and strange.
It's worse than that, John. Brian should know this. The creator we're referencing holds a record on YouTube, Brian. Every single video and every single show, well, I can dare say for every single video, an absolute ratio. Every single video. In terms of shows, it's like one of those half-half style ratios. But I can say this creature has broken a record on YouTube. I have never, in my 4-5 year long creator journey, first run, second run, and now the Rumble run put together, I have never seen a creator, and I've analyzed thousands, never seen one get ratioed every single time they release content. Not with DSP, not with Cyrex. We're talking about the creator.
Yeah, Alyssa Mercante.
Yeah, the Mercante creature. Yes,
she's just, you know, I actually, this is gonna sound bad, but the Christian in me has a lot of sympathy for her because she is suffering, and all it takes. This is the thing that's really simple. All it takes is for people like that to have a moment of humility and say, I think I was wrong. And then everything is cleared up, but she can't do it. She can't do it. And, but I'm sorry that that's happening to you. And she's just going to continue to suffer, though.
Oh, yeah. And much like you, Ryan, I do find her to be kind of this tragic character because she's a victim of the woke mind virus, clearly. And all the delusion and everything. She's got internet brain. She's been seeking fame. She's more of a product than she is a person. And as soon as this lawsuit is, taken care of and resolved, if she doesn't win, she's out on her ass because those people already have somebody in the wings ready to take her place.
Yep. Exactly. She is a cog in the machine.
She's a foot soldier.
She'll get replaced. But John, I cannot wait for Smash's celebration show. Hopefully it'll be a Rumble exclusive so I can pop
when he wins the legal case
right.
against her.
I'm gonna try and
hopefully
buy a bottle of wine. Opening it will be a fucking challenge, but I'll buy it, and then Smash will drink together and go nuts.
Right. Well, hopefully, because again, to get back to the weird, arbitrary, vague terms of service stuff that they have, it says that you can't be in a repeating role. Well, what's a repeating role? You know, is that once?
It's a role
is once a month? Right, but I mean, is that like, because like, do they mean week to week?
It's arbitrary.
Right. And so, like, can you be a guest and so this is the thing that I've been talking to Ryan about is, well, hopefully what we can do is we can establish a group of creators that are willing to host you at least once a week on YouTube so that you can be able to still talk about this stuff, and then just kind of do like a round robin thing where you pop up at each of those channels, maybe, once every 2-3 months. If we could get it down to a month or so, that would be really cool. But again, it's going to be up to them to determine, what that repeatedly even means, because you are a guest on our show today. As said, it was planned before all this stuff happened, so we're just going with it.
I was on BLZ Pub this morning. Great guys over there. Devil made me do it. Paul Hadouken. So many great people there. I'm just going to
that was on YouTube as well. So we're hopeful.
I'm just going to mute myself temporarily because I have a video that's just released that I need to share.
No worries.
So you two, back and forth.
But yeah, like I was saying, we being these smaller channels that aren't necessarily, going through some things right now, I think if we can establish that we can keep Ryan visible on YouTube, and even without having a dominant channel, but still invite him as guests once a week and things like that, then those larger creators might be able to,
well, he can come on whenever he wants because I got nothing to lose. I am a dog with nothing to lose. So, well, let's get into the stories though, because I do want to start that as well. But definitely going to bring Ryan. Obviously you should stay and give us your feedback. You're here to stay, but we'll go back. I'll talk with you again in another show. Hopefully next week. I'm actually going to be speaking. I don't know if you guys know who they are, but I'm trying to get in on my show. Well, first of all, I do want to get Toasty with the Mosty on and talk to her about her. Like her experience and just just have a conversation with her. And there's a channel called Based Camp with Simone and Malcolm, who are a couple that are pro-natalist, and they were also involved with the Gamergate stuff. They've been on side scrollers and stuff like that. And hopefully one day I'll get on like side scrollers or something and be able to share my thoughts on all this, because I think that we need something of a, let's say, a voice that is more rooted in like a real kind of right wing,
a reality based kind of mindset.
Reality based mindset, exactly. But anyway, let's get into the stories. First, we're going to talk about CULT-ure. So remember when I said way back in the day, a while ago, I said VTubers will save the West, and it was because I saw this VTuber CULT-ure. So a little bit of history with me and VTubing. A long time ago, I discovered VTubing was a thing when I saw this little program called FaceRig, and I got it for Steam, and I used it on my shows over at Honey Badge Radio because I thought it was fun, because it's all like a long story. But basically, once I had on my Google, what was the Google thing that we used? Google Hangouts. There was a Google equivalent to Facebook for a while. I can't remember what it was called.
I'm pretty sure it was Hangouts.
Google Hangouts was the chat, but there was like a page. But anyway, and for my avatar, I was really into the Doge meme, the Shiba Inu, which was like a new meme at the time. That just dates like how old I've been doing this, and I use it as my avatar.
I was in art school when the Doge thing happened.
Yeah, I was in art school too, and
like 20 years ago.
And I started appearing in live streams, but it was just Google Hangouts because I didn't have a camera or anything. And so my Doge icon was just there, and I didn't really think much of it. But for some reason, I became associated with it. And so everybody would say, oh, it's the Doge, right? And when I would go to meetups and people would say, you're the Doge, right? So I saw this FaceRig thing, and it basically it acts like a VTuber, but we didn't call them VTubing back then. And I used it as an actual animated Doge, which was literally the Doge that they made into a FaceRig model. And so I've been doing it for a while, and I thought it was a lot of fun and just kind of like a fun little silly thing that I was into. And then I saw there was this first really serious VTuber called Kizuna AI or something like that. Kizuna AI. It was like a Japanese thing. And I was fascinated by that. I was like, holy shit, this is really cool, like how they did this, because it was like motion capture. But I don't know if they used suits or anything back then, but it was really impressive. And I thought, oh, this is going to totally like pick up. People are going to do this because it's like a fun way to be on the internet. Sure enough, VTubing became a big thing. and I discovered Kirsha, and I thought it was the most random thing because she was a VTuber. I had no idea what she normally talked about, but when I found her, she was doing these deep dives into the Sweet Baby Inc., DEI, ESG, BlackRock, Vanguard, all of that. And I thought it was really neat that there was a VTuber doing it. And over time, what I discovered was that there was something about the VTubing community, not all of them, not everybody, obviously, but for some reason, because their audience tends to be a lot of young men that are like into anime or something, because that's kind of like how they're selling their image or their whatever their product of themselves. That there is sympathy from VTubers towards men. They tend to, and I saw this not just in Kirsha, but also in others. Like there was a VTuber named Smug Alana. There's one, I forgot her name, but it's like another Fox girl. And there's a bunch of them. There's even some in your FFS Discord, like the Akko or something. Like I don't know, some
Mama Akko.
Mama Akko, yes. So I thought this is not like a just like a girl who's showing off her body on Twitch, like a Twitch thought or an Instagram thought, because they're actually like using their physical body to get attention and money from men. These are playing characters, and then that is how they kind of have to be somebody with a personality if it works, right? So I instantly thought, oh yeah, like Kirsha's pretty based. Like I wouldn't say she's crazy based, but she's pretty based. And so I thought that was neat. And I said, well, maybe these people could, because you never know where something good is going to come from. It could come from the most unlikely place. And I thought this was that. And that's why I said, VTubers are going to save the West, mostly tongue in cheek. But there does seem to be a controversy, or was. Now, I missed a couple of shows because I had to go to a friend's funeral last weekend. And then the weekend before that, I think I ended up doing like a pro
Repo
stream. We played Repo, which is a blast. And
you should pick it up for like $10.
It's like $10. And yes, Ryan, you should totally pick it up. I'm gonna be streaming Repo like every so often because it's so much fun. But anyway, so yeah, I didn't do it in a while, so I'm kind of behind on this controversy, but there has been some development. So I'm gonna go ahead and read my summary here, and then we'll discuss. I think it's related to what you went through, Roger. So I think that's what's interesting about it. So in April 2025, a controversy erupted when Vice journalist Anna Valens, who's by the way a fucking piece of work, published an article targeting VTuber Kirsha Verstal, focusing on her partnership with the energy drink brand Gamer Supps. Valens accused Kirsha of promoting right-wing ideologies, including alleged transphobia, sexism, and support for the Great Replacement theory. Not that it's a theory, it was literally happening, citing specific instances from Kirsha's streams and social media activity, such as a retweet involving supposed fascist imagery and comments perceived as bigoted. The article aimed to pressure Gamer Supps to reconsider their sponsorship, sparking significant backlash from Kirsha's supporters and segments of the VTuber community who viewed it as a targeted smear campaign. Valens faced intense online harassment, according to Valens, supposedly including death threats, prompting them to deactivate several social media accounts. Now, Valens is described, they have she, her pronouns, but that's a dude, and I'm not going to pretend like it's not.
I was told, Brian, before you continue, I was told that Alla Valens was like a funny way of saying anal violence. I don't know if that's a joke or not, but I did see the connection.
You might have a point, because Anna Valens is really into, and I mean, this is like something that was forced on everybody because they just put it out there, into, let's say, non-consensual forced intercourse, including what you said, anal violence. So it's probably not an accident, because that's not that person's real name anyway. It's probably something like Chet.
Right?
It's the reality-based name for Anna Valens. Anal violence. Exposed.
This situation escalated when Kirsha threatened legal action against Vice, which Alan Valens works for. By the way, Vice, it's in the name, alleging the articles contain slanderous and out of context claims. On May 14th, Vice removed 3 articles related to Kirsha, including the original piece and a follow-up supporting Valens, reportedly after Kirsha sent a cease and desist letter. Critics of Valens, including some on X and Reddit, argued that articles lacked journalistic merit and relied on dubious sources, while some supporters claimed Kirsha's response and fan base actions constituted a harassment campaign to silence valid criticism of her controversial statements. The incident highlighted ongoing tensions within the VTuber community over political discourse and accountability, with both sides accusing the other of bad faith tactics. And more recently, as of like I just learned earlier today, Kirsha has revealed that she's had to leave her home due to death threats sent her way from her commentary. So Kirsha is actually the one that, according to her, is having to get out of there. She says, this is what Kirsha said on the subject: there have been multiple threats, and I've shown stuff to my police department, and I would prefer to go away for a while and not have to deal with it. It's just not worth it. I've already been in the VTubers news cycle for over a month now. I don't want to be in the real news cycle because I ventilated some mentally ill person who came here to try to harm me, she said. So she's saying that she doesn't want to have to ventilate somebody who comes to her house, which, you know, I don't know if this is a wild concept, but the left, they love violence. So yeah, they're not against that.
Yeah. My thoughts on this blew the mind of Smash JT, and John knows what I'm referring to, because all that matters to the opposition, and I'm sure Brian can attest to this, is the ideology. The body must satisfy the mind. The mind must not satisfy the body in that regard. And that's why everything is done in accordance to defending the ideology. So when we dismantle or undermine or damage the ideology, you damage the mind. That's the equivalent to the opposition of damaging the body, because the personal is the political. So when we condemn them, their reaction is to kill us, because once we destroy their ideology, well, what's a body without a mind, folks? What's an idea without the ideology?
Yep. Yeah, no, it is some kind of irony that because this is the first time anybody on this channel is seeing me live, because I actually, to what we're talking about with VTubers, Brian is the person who got me into streaming. So thank you for that. And then through that, that's how I ultimately kind of met Ryan, and now have all the stuff that's going on.
Ryan platformed you, and Ryan springboarded you.
Right.
Will Cyan destroy you? I mean, what's going on here?
I don't know. It's an interesting thing. We'll find out in due course.
No, it would be the inverse. It would be Nairb.
Right.
That will destroy him.
Right. But the thing about it is like, you know, I'd done a few VODs at that point in time, and that's how Brian found me, and he's like, "Hey, would you be interested in doing this the show with me called the Culture Week, or the Week in Culture?" We're still kind of like, you know, whatever. And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so he asked me to be a VTuber, and then of course I went through all my tech issues and had to use that loop reel for a while, and then we figured out how to, like, you know, make me into a PNG tuber that would track my mouth. So this is the first time that I've actually been on this channel in corporeal form, I guess.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Because like before, we had a thing where you had your VTuber self, and in a screen there was your real self also. So it was like a little bit of both. Yeah. We've seen your face before.
Oh yeah, okay, all right, yeah. I guess we have like a few times, but this is the first time I've done a full episode, I believe. But the point being is that, you know, VTubers, we're all going to be VTubers to some degree before this whole thing is done playing out, especially if you're on YouTube and going to try to gamble with the TOS and all that kind of stuff. You almost have to have some level of anonymity, because I would think that, you know, Hypno right now hasn't endured as much. I mean, he's already sitting on 1 strike right now, which came through as a technicality because he was in a warning phase. But, you know, if
And it was his own fault this time.
right
Mine.
and right, but if the Mercunti creature could have found a way to target him directly, his name, his dress, all this kind of stuff, I'm pretty sure that he would have been the focus of the lawsuit instead of Smash.
The opposition realize, and this goes for all monetized creators, when you become monetized as a content creator on YouTube, you have to provide everything. I mean, who you are, where you're based, your primary address, especially if you live in more than one place.
Yep.
And if the opposition can get Google to spill those beans, the consequences would be catastrophic.
Right.
For everyone involved, because that would lead in some cases to open warfare, and that's when the culture war really gets hot, folks. But yeah, that's why deplatforming can also be a blessing in disguise, and that's why I take John's perspective of this is a win-win situation for me, and the only people who are angry, sad, in denial about this are people that I've helped along the way who will feel my loss. I mean, I've just seen, guys, the can I share my screen if that's all right?
Maybe possible? Ooh, I don't know. I think that what you sent, why don't you do this? Send me the link and I'll share it. Is that possible?
Let me I'll it's a picture. I'll share. I'll save the picture and I'll send it to you on X just to show you.
All right.
What it is.
Hopefully X will open because.
Yeah, use Discord if you can by chance.
Yeah.
Oh
X
I can. Yeah. Okay. I think it's being attacked. I think.
Yeah. Oh no. Well, it's not only being attacked, but there was actually a fire at their data center in Oregon. And nobody's really talked about it all that much, but yeah.
Well, I sent you the picture regardless. Now,
there we go.
This folks is of course Saturday Night Hypnosis. This channel's criminally underrated, and Hypno's probably not watching. I probably shouldn't have shared this, but this is SNH episode 142, the only episode I have missed. I've been on since episode 30. Speargate was 113, and we had two 113s. There was also a Rumble exclusive later on because Hypno got struck. Of course, you can see my picture right there, John. R.I.P. And the special guest is my clone, Discuss Thing. Someone I actually recommended to Hypno. This guy could hold himself in this conversation. He's experienced. He's criminally underrated. Yes, he's Bulgarian, so his time zones are going to be nuts, getting up to be on the show. And he looks like me, when I had hair. And I think he'd be a good replacement. Hypno's like, no, let people feel your loss. But it's good to see Disgusting as a special guest. Hopefully he'll fit right in. And, for as long as I'm deplatformed on YouTube, and so long as SNH is on YouTube, I can't be on the show. Now, in the unfortunate event, because it would be unfortunate, of Hypno getting struck again, and then the show becomes exclusive to Rumble, then I can come back, as a triumphant return as a guest. Welcome, everyone. Don't you love being here? As Leon and Cassie and Atreus slowly back away. But another great thing about this, to end my tangent, Brian, is the fact that this is a win-win because it allows people who may not like me behind the scenes some breathing room away from me. Okay. Leon and I have had our disagreements in the past. Cassie has always given me the cold shoulder. I don't blame her. And I've teased Atreus too many times. I've just done it too often. So I understand if people have issues with me like behind the scenes, but we're all hanging together. We're instead of hanging separately, we all want the same thing at the end of the day. And I'm sure the show will survive without me, but I'm still there, folks. Crossed out, R.I.P. Which serves as a good precedent because it means I can't be replaced.
Right, true.
You can get
kind of like it's kind of like how I retired as the reigning tangent king because we only do Old White Road together now. I guess we did do technically a system crash.
John, it's getting to a point where I'm like, I need all the regulars I can get. I know you're a very busy man. Yeah, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, the door is always open. For you.
Indeed.
Always.
All right. Well, yeah. So in closing, I'll just say about the CULT-ure thing, stay safe. And yeah, I think that there is well, Anna Valens is a pretty disgusting individual. Somebody said, isn't that person into kids? They're into infants, and it's messed up. Okay. Like, and the thing is that, okay. I understand that there are people who exist to have gender dysphoria. I don't think that's Anna Valens' problem. I think that most of the time, the people who claim to be trans or queer or non-binary or whatever are just coon-brained porn addicts that they just normalize this sickness in their mind, and it probably has a lot to do with the fact that their home life is an absolute mess and they're terminally online. And this was something that I saw coming a long time ago as well, when Tumblr was a thing that we used to talk about in the like early to mid 2010s. That I figured this was going to distort people's brains. So yes, Anna Valens is a sick individual. I hope they get help before they hurt someone, and I hope CULT-ure stays safe. And that's all I got to say about it. VTubers will save the West. Okay, but anyway.
Indeed.
We're going to move on to the next story. The rest of these are kind of small, so we should better get through a bunch of them pretty quick. But I thought they were worth mentioning. So you guys probably know about Lies of P. If you've ever heard of it, it is a Souls-like, and a lot of times people associate Souls-likes with extremely difficult gameplay, although I don't think that is necessarily a feature of that. And I also think that the claims of this being difficult are often really, really overrated. And I think that people they internalize this too much, because when you have somebody who can't get past the tutorial level of Cuphead saying that a game is too hard, then maybe you should reevaluate what they mean by that. Okay. So,
wow.
All right. In May, so this is a Lies of P. So Lies of P is basically a Souls-like game where you play essentially Pinocchio in a kind of Victorian Gothic setting. It's very cool. I played a demo of it a while back, and I thought it was very cool, but I never picked it up myself. But ever since Souls-like games have been around, journalists have this pattern of releasing thought pieces, and I'm going to say journalists, okay, prostitutes, that essentially say these games are too hard and something should be done to make them easier. And ultimately what it means is I want to experience this without having to actually play it. That's kind of what they're saying, okay? And this is like, for me, this is a problem that is more substantial than just, like maybe the game is unfairly difficult, which I don't think it is. I think that these games are very fair, generally. What I think it is they want. So what's been going on, and you guys, I think you touched on this earlier today. You said that, and I've been saying this forever, video games are trying to be movies. And the reason they're trying to be movies is because movies can deliver a message in a very straightforward way, where the person who is experiencing the film or television show or miniseries or whatever, they are passive passengers on this journey. So you get to tell them the story any way you want and spin it however you want, right? You can be subversive, you can add in elements that are, nudging people in whatever direction you want, but ultimately the person experiencing it has no control over how things unfold.
Right.
Video games give players agency, so they let them make choices. Now, of course, a lot of games are linear, but because there is such a thing as having agency in them, where you're like, you get to the end of the game because you worked at doing that, whether it's an RPG like Chrono Trigger, like you mentioned, or if it's something more open-ended like Oblivion, or if it's just like a linear shoot-'em-up game like Mega Man or Contra, there is a story unfolding, and it involves conflict, and it involves resolving conflict through action by the player, okay? Now, when Wokies started getting involved with video games, I remember when VR was like very, very cutting edge, very new. I mean, VR is pretty old, but like when we got to the point where there was some technology that could, be used in VR, what I saw was I went to a VR conference in 2015, 2016, because somebody I knew said, "Oh, you got to see VR. It's like it's going to be the next big thing." And I was like, I don't know, because I don't think that I think that it's kind of a gimmick because there's only so much you can do with it. But I went to the conference, and what I noticed is this was right after the death of Trayvon Martin.
Mm-hmm.
You guys remember Trayvon Martin?
Candy Bar Kid.
I've heard that name before. It's been a long time though.
Yeah. So the Trayvon Martin thing happened, and of course there was the narrative, right? There was a narrative, and then there was a truth. Mm-hmm. And the narrative was that George Zimmerman was like looking for a black kid to kill, and he found one. And I went to this VR conference, and they had a VR thing I could try out where I wore the VR helmet or the goggles or whatever, and it's not even a game. You're sitting in an apartment in the community where the incident happened, and you can look around the room, but you can't move. Mm-hmm. And you're listening to the radio, and the radio or like a police scanner, and the police scanner is playing, or a radio, I don't remember what it is, but you can listen to the phone call that was made by the person who, was basically calling the police about Trayvon Martin being shot. And all you can do is like sit there and experience it. There was another VR experience where you are a woman in an office, and you're sitting in your cubicle, and there's a man that comes to your table and sexually harasses you, and you can't do anything. All you can do is experience it. Now, the purpose of both of these, obviously, is to emotionally manipulate you into thinking, oh my God, sex-based harassment is so bad. You know why? Because I experienced it in VR, and now I understand how women feel, right? Or the Trayvon thing. So ever since then, it's always been, and they openly had like a keynote speaker that talked about the social justice applications of virtual reality, and by extension, video games. So ever since then, I've been very sensitive to everything any journalist tries to pull when it comes to nudging people to turning video games, which are in experiences purely based in the player agency, player choice, and most importantly, skill, because that's like a thing. You're either your skill in choosing the correct tactics if you're playing like an RPG or like a strategy game, so that they don't get dumbed down, which I'm pretty sure you guys in the chat can talk about modern, turn-based strategy games that have gotten worse over time because they've been trying to appeal to more people, or if it's just like video games like Souls-like games. Yep. So whenever I see that, I worry. Now, going back to the story, Neowitz, which is the developers of Lies of P, announced that the upcoming Overture DLC and a free update would introduce difficulty options to the game, a significant shift from their original stance. Previously, in August of 2023, game director Ji-won Choi stated that Souls-like games like Lies of P should not have difficulty settings, emphasizing the genre's tight level design as a core appeal. Mm-hmm. However, after receiving extensive feedback from players and developers, Choi explained that the new difficulty options, named Butterfly's Guidance, story focused and easier, Awakened Puppet less punishing, and the default Legendary Stalker. So the default setting is the most difficult setting now for this game. Were added to make the game more accessible to a wider audience. This decision aims to broaden the player base while preserving the original challenge for hardcore fans. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is I think this sets a terrible, terrible precedent, because you are buying into the bullshit. They want to turn games into experiences. Right. They're literally making games with story modes where you're just floating through them. And look, if you want to make a game like that, like Gone Home, like Depression Quest, you can do that, but don't do that to the games that we like, because this is the issue. It's not, I'm okay with having games that are story focused, existing. I'm just not going to buy them. Right. But the goal is not that. The goal is to take all games and make them into experiences, because especially in the AAA industry, they want this to be like films. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, to your point that you had brought up, Ryan, and I can't be certain, but I think it might have actually been that video that I did that exposed the whole thing about the money chain from the WF and the United Nations through the Rockefeller Foundation into Ubisoft, where
a donation,
where they had set up this back channel to kind of spin out all the stuff that we're seeing now. but this video that I had done ultimately ended up getting my YouTube channel shadow banned because they called me a climate change denier because what they were doing the funding for initially when all this was coming out when I did the research was it was a game that you were somewhere in, I think it was in Florida after a hurricane, right? And so because they wanted to, as you were saying, put people through experiences so that it could be more focused on messaging and things like that. And it was a VR game, but it was one of the ways that they kind of initialized this whole situation. So, and I became aware of that because of the person who is in charge of the financing. She did an 8-hour panel presentation at GDC on a Tuesday, not this last March, but of last year. And that was the thing where I started to make the connections that Master of TDS kind of got into. I explained the structure in that video a year ago. He explained the people who were involved. And so when you're talking about them trying to insert messaging and make them more experiences, that is exactly what their intent is. And they use that aspect of agency and extended immersion, specifically through VR purposes, to try to incept people and, as you said, affect them on an emotional level. And so when you talk about them doing this now to games where they're going to be making them more about having accessibility for messaging and all that kind of stuff, all this is, a way to, it's kind of like if you want to, affect the future, then work on the children and just instill it into them while they're young, and so that they look at the world through that lens. And so I think that this move towards quote unquote accessibility in gaming is so that they can actually still have, if not overt, at least covert messaging kind of things that are in there, so that they can hopefully have an edge on how people view the world and what their thoughts are on certain things. And it's certainly something that I think, for what games are, there's a wide variety of games. There's puzzles games, there's story games, but then there are skill-based games. And if you have a skill-based game such as this, not everything has to be for everyone. And the homogenization of things, trying to cater to global markets and all this kind of stuff, this is what corporate-driven globalism profiteering schemes are all about, is undermining the uniqueness we have with our national identities and things like that, because ultimately their push is to have a transhumanist society. In the future, we will be robots if they have their way. And that's why I believe the identity crisis has kind of come into play in recent years, is because they are trying to blur the lines of what is man, what is woman, what is all this kind of stuff. And, they're doing all this stuff ultimately for those ends. And if they can do that through gaming because it is more immersive, then they have a much higher capability of ultimately meeting those goals. And so, I think that that's kind of what a lot of this, immersive gaming through messaging kind of stuff that they're pushing for is ultimately about. But I'll let Ryan speak on it so I don't take up too much more time.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was just going to make the point in regards to story-based games becoming films. We've seen many examples of it, from the good examples of Death Stranding to the bad examples of The Last of Us Part 2 and Dustborn.
Mhm.
As someone who played through Dustborn, all I have is the marathon stream I did because StreamYard recorded that. It's a very painful game, even on story mode, okay? And I just wanted to get through the damn game. So I'm
God.
like, path of least resistance.
Hey,
But
Dan.
you see the parallels there, okay? We don't want games to be films. We want games to be games. Expedition 33 is a great example of games being games. And The Last of Us Part 2 is a great example of games being films.
Yeah, for sure. I wanna to add something to what you guys were talking about with like the using games as an immersive tool to get people, especially VR, to get people thinking, like questioning their identity and and their humanity. And I think that this is impacting young people a lot. This is one of the reasons why one of the things I promote the most is games that have a community, like a social element, so that even if you're playing a game, you are playing with other human beings, provided they're not AI, and you're like, for now anyway, and you're able to like spend time with them, joke around with them, and have conversations. It reminds us, like, when we used to, before, like, we all became kind of atomized and living far away from each other and stuff, we used to like go to a place together and do stuff together. And I think that that's what gaming could be. I think that's the absolute future, which is why I did the stream with John where we played Repo, because I think it's a really good example of the ways that, you know, games could be like tools of social growth, like to help people socialize better, which is the opposite of what this other stuff is. Like, the opposite, the other side is that basically like to make us less human. And I think our ability to socialize is what makes us human. Human beings need three things. We need sleep, we need water and sunlight. Well, maybe more than three things. Food, and we need people. So like we don't do well without that. But anyway, so I'm sorry, Ryan, did you have, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's perfectly fine. I mean, for me, this is a very clear-cut topic. Games should be games first, not movies. Movies should be movies. Television should be television. Games should be games. I mean, streaming services are a great example of this. You look at Netflix shows or Disney Plus, they seem to combine the worst of movies and the worst of TV shows together.
Yep,
and
they make movies out of things that should be TV shows, and they make TV shows out of things that should be movies.
Exactly, John. That is a fantastic point there. And I just don't want gaming as an ecosystem to go down that path. I mean, for me personally, I'm a great proponent of Game Pass as a model, simply because of the fact that Xbox and Microsoft Gaming have nowhere else to go. That's literally the only place they could go to sustain themselves. And even now, it's looking a bit dicey and dodgy. But games should be games first. If you want all style, no substance, all consequence and no choice, go check out a damn movie and stay away from games. You want choices and consequences, which isn't easy to program into games. But if you want them, put it in gaming. If you want a nice narrative story, make a TV show and make a damn movie.
Yeah, well, I think you actually hit on a good point right there, Ryan. If I can just to piggyback on it, but the whole idea of, you know, having it be something that's passive, and as opposed to something that is interactive, we have been able to win the day in so many of these battles through this saga of Gamergate because we have pattern recognition skills, right? And we got that through gaming. And so I think that that's part of the thing that they're wanting to combat too, is they want people to just be more compliant and pliable. But you got an entire generation of people over the course of the last 40 years since Nintendo, you know, I mean, even before that, there was Atari and Odyssey and other things like that. But for 40 years,
literally the first the first viral game was a game of pattern recognition. Very simple and very effective.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like with our ability to actually, you know, we got trained growing up how to recognize patterns and all this kind of stuff. And so when we started seeing this bullshit, you know, come to the surface, we're very quick to point it out. And so I think that they're trying to dumb down the gaming audience so they don't have those pattern recognition skills and they just become more docile and passive and just willing to go along with whatever is spoon-fed to them.
Yep. Well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I think the Liza P devs are making a terrible mistake. I don't think it's going to improve sales that much. And I hope that, well, I don't think that From Software is going to fall into this trap because they know where their bread is buttered, but maybe other people who do this kind of thing, they might fall into this trap. So we'll see what happens. But there's definitely a constant attack on meritocracy everywhere, and that includes gaming for players and developers.
I'm not against the attack on meritocracy personally. Why? Because I just do what I do for the fun of what I do. What I'm against is the agenda. Okay, if you want to release a passion project, doesn't matter if you're good at it or bad at it. I think we're approaching an age where we're leaving the financially based world, folks, because the kind of tech I've seen of audio and video recently with the recent innovations, it's astonishing. Although it's not 100%, it's about 95% there. And people are so sick of Hollywood and are so sick of the movie and television industry that they just give the programming the benefit of the doubt. As long as it's like entertaining and 95% there, people will watch it. People will even pay for it. And anyone can do it with the proper program. The program escapes me its name, but it was a recent release of video and audio AI combined.
Oh, I know the one that was on X. Yeah, it was very impressive. Yeah. Is that the one, the We Can Talk thing? Yeah, that was wild. All right, well, anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. All right, so speaking of community-based games, I want to talk about Arrowhead Studios. So I think this is good news. So Arrowhead Game Studios, the developers of Helldivers 2, announced in May of 2025 that their next project, referred to right now as Game 6, will be fully self-funded and independent of their previous partnership with PlayStation. CEO Shams Georgiani stated in the Helldivers 2 Discord that the success of Helldivers 2 has given the studio the financial freedom and democracy to explore. That's a joke, the Helldivers joke. To explore new concepts and make all key decisions independently, emphasizing that they will call 100% of the shots. This move away from PlayStation's involvement suggests the game will likely be a multi-platform game, potentially launching on all consoles and PC. Georgiani clarified there is no bad blood with PlayStation, describing them as great and solid partners who were instrumental in Helldivers 2's success, and he expressed openness to future collaborations. While no specific details about the project's genre or timeline were shared, Georgiani noted it is in early planning stages, indicating a release is likely years away. So,
well, that's fantastic news, Brian. I heard a bit of the corporate speak in that statement you were quoting, and like, oh, there's no bad blood between us and Sony. Yeah, there is, man. Their actions.
They're annoyed about those 130 countries that don't have access. Yeah, I would imagine.
And the fact that Helldivers 2 was on a wave, like riding a wave.
It was Sony huge. I mean, it's still pretty popular, but with what remains in terms of all of the work that they've done, they've constantly supported this. Like, this is a live service. Like right now, there's an event going on where Super Earth itself is being invaded by the Illuminate.
Right.
So, like, urban it's a warfare. Constant. Yeah. No, it's beyond that. It's like literally attacking the home planet. It's called Heart of Democracy.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, like, you're in an urban setting. Like, there's more streets and like
the Buenos Aires mission, which was what's
Starship
the word
Troopers.
I'm looking for? Yeah, inspired by Starship Troopers. I personally think these guys should work on a successor to Helldivers 2, because it was Sony that really caused that viral game to just fall on its anus, for lack of a better term. Helldivers 3, learn from the best of Helldivers 2, and move forward with a game that's as much a single player story for the main character, customizable, that sort of thing. Imagine a mix of Mass Effect with Helldivers 2. So there's a single player offline, there's a multiplayer online, and they have time to upgrade the game so it looks better and works better, because getting it to work on a massive multiplayer system, that can be very difficult. I think that would do incredibly well. The danger is fresh start, new collaboration with themselves, not with Sony. A piece of my mind is thinking, are they just going to go in a completely new direction, fresh start, new project to make a name for themselves and just put this franchise either on the back burner, or they'll just keep supporting it indefinitely?
I think that it's kind of one of those things how, like, like sometimes actors will say, well, I do this movie to pay for my house. I do this movie because I actually enjoy the craft. And so I think that as long they will have their kind of association with Sony, and as long as the game does well enough, I think there will probably be a Helldivers 3 at some point in time, and it'll
The
probably still
original-
remain for Sony. But
Yep.
I think that it's wise of them to disassociate beyond that specific IP and
John.
just go off on their own endeavors.
Well, John, the original Helldivers was completely different to Helldivers.
Oh, I know. It's top-down game. I actually own it.
Yeah, me too.
And hell, for all we know, Helldivers 3 could, if it ever releases, could be a completely different kind of. It could be a turn-based game inspired by Expedition 33. For all we damn well know.
Right.
Well, what I think is, I mean, assuming you guys are done with your comments on this one, okay.
Sure.
So here's the thing with Arrowhead. Well, more importantly, the thing with Sony. Sony is notoriously possessive of their IPs. So what happened? And then this is, I want to explain. Well, they're not going to give them Helldivers as a brand. What Sony is more likely to do is have a different dev team work on a Helldivers 3 and hope nobody notices that it's not Arrowhead.
True.
That's what they're more likely to do. So what I think Arrowhead will have to do is what they seem to be good at is the, this kind of co-op experience, because the original Helldivers was a 4-player co-op. It was just a top-down, and in case you guys don't know, Helldivers 2 was running on the same engine that Helldivers 1 was running on. It's just a more of a third person instead of a top-down perspective, but still a 4-player thing, and still with this sort of like evolving battlefield landscape where like the different systems are changing and things are happening. The first game did that too, but this one just went a little bit deeper. So most likely, if they're going to enjoy success, they're going to have to make something that is very similar to what Helldivers 2 was, because that's what the players crave. And if they know it's the same guys that brought them Helldivers 2, then they can literally call it, they can make the settings completely different. It could be medieval, it could be, fantasy, it could be underwater. I don't know. Like whatever they decide, they could change all kinds of things, but I don't think they're going to be able to hold on to the Helldivers IP anymore. Sony has made that theirs. They even used it in that like Amazon series. You guys remember that Amazon show with the little, I forgot what it was called, but it had,
I can't remember, but
Final Level or something like that.
I think so.
And it had little shorts, animated shorts based on video games, like and Helldivers was in one of the shorts. So it was obviously the Sony short, because they had like Kratos and a bunch of other Sony IPs. So what and how I know that this is likely how this is going to go is From Software. A lot of the devs that a lot of people love now, they got their start like essentially attached to another dev. Whether it was Bungie with Microsoft or From Software with
Expedition 33 right now. People that came from Ubisoft, the talent, skill, and ability left to actually tell stories again and actually make games and not just make a whole bunch of narrative designed fucking ESG bullshit that would otherwise be on the plate if they stayed at Ubisoft.
Yeah, Gabriel said Secret Level. That was the show. It's called Secret Level. But anyway, so what From Software, they got they made the Kingsfield games, right? Which weren't popular, but there was a lot of them. There was at least 4 of those games. But where they really got on the map was when they made the original Demon's Souls, but they did it under the Sony name. So when Demon's Souls didn't succeed at first, but over time it became like a big thing. It's a massive cult hit. And they wanted to make another Souls game, another Demon's Souls game that was multi-platform, but Sony said, no, we own Demon's Souls. You can't do that. So what From Software did was they said, okay, we'll make a game called Dark Souls, and we'll put that everywhere. And they did. And essentially, they're very similar in terms of like the gameplay and everything. They just applied it to that. And then they tried again with Bloodborne, which was another game that was made only on Sony PlayStation consoles. And that was another situation where, they can't make a sequel unless Sony, unless they do it exclusively for the PlayStation. So, and this is not unique to Sony. I mean, obviously Nintendo owns all of the rights to their properties, and they're only going to be available on Nintendo platforms. And Microsoft has, their own, things that they control. But that landscape is changing all the time. more people game on PC now than on console, I think. And a lot
Yep.
of that had to do with what happened during COVID, right? Because when COVID was going on, people were like, well, I'm home all the time. Let me build a PC. And even I, who grew up on consoles, am now gaming primarily on PC. So with all that being said, I think that Arrowhead is, and they have to know this. They're probably like already working it out. They're going to have to come up with an IP that is parallel, but not Helldivers 3. But they'll have to make something parallel to it, something that is a lot like it. And then people will call it divers-like, or they'll make a whole genre of diver-like games, most likely, in the same way that Souls-like games have become a thing. So,
yeah, no, I think that that's definitely on point.
Yeah,
that's
what I suspect. But anyway, if there's nothing else, I'm going to move on to the next story. So let me know what you guys think about this. I'm happy that they're doing this. I think this is a very smart move. Arrowhead does not, and I said this from the beginning when this whole controversy broke. I said, well, they should just leave Sony and make a game on their own, because they Helldivers 2 did so much better than anyone expected, including me, who loved the first one. That they have the money. They can just do their own thing now.
Right.
So,
Helldivers 1 to Helldivers 2 is kind of the transition from the original top-down GTAs to GTA 3 in terms of
that's
the
a good way to look at it.
growth.
Think of it this way as an example. Say Ubisoft published Expedition 33 and E33 started off incredibly well. It was doing insanely well. And Ubisoft was like, you have to have an Ubisoft account to now play this game. That is the Helldivers situation.
Right.
Yes, exactly. All right, so we're gonna move on to the next story. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I look forward to seeing your thoughts, and please, if you can, please share the video or like it. I want to say real quick before I get into the next story, almost 30 people are watching on Rumble. That is amazing compared to the 10 on YouTube plus the 3 that are looking at the vertical. The vertical chat is for doom scrollers. That
please like the stream. Sharing is caring.
I want to make this. Go ahead.
I was gonna say there's a couple X posts. Ryan put one out earlier today on X. I put one out as well. Of course, you can share from here if you'd like. But yeah, we are trying to do everything we can to support Rumble, because Rumble is way more supportive. But yeah, if you guys could like the stream, this is definitely, in the time that we've been doing this together, this is the most people I've ever seen in our Rumble channel, which is awesome to say.
Way more. That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for checking it out on Rumble. And if you're on YouTube, go to my Rumble channel and watch there. Join the party. You're invited. You're all invited. Okay. So Neil Druckmann. So we yes, Neil Druckmann is being he has responded to backlash against their upcoming Naughty Dog's upcoming game, Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. So his game got clowned on hard when the trailer came out. It got the Sony. Absolutely. This is like from as of I think the last time I looked at it, it's got 97. The trailer for this got 97,000 likes and 256,000 dislikes. So ratioed into oblivion, and the comments are great. Okay, some of them are here's a couple. Okay. In this trailer, women, strong, powerful galactic warriors, men, the enemy. I have no interest. I didn't even look at the trailer. Another commenter said, I like the part in the trailer when the protagonist said, it's concording time, turns on her laser sword and concords the alien monster. Somebody else said, sponsored by the modern audience. Thanks, Neil. I hate everything about this and everything you're involved in. So there you go. Like it's like people, and of course the actress shared, the actress that starred in the game, Tati Gabrielle. She shared, you guys remember the fragile masculinity artwork that they put out there that featured the character from Intergalactic, as well as the new Siri from The Witcher. Yeah, so but Druckmann is now chiming in with his thoughts. And of course, he is going on a tour, a press tour for his game. So like that already tells you a lot. That already tells you that these people are panicking because they probably, and this is the other thing about video games as movies, which is like the theme today, it seems. Because like Helldivers 2, as an aside, it plays like a movie, but it plays like an action movie, and the action is created by the players. So
Right.
you can find YouTube videos online of people saying, you know, like Helldivers 2 is absolute cinema, and it just shows gameplay with crazy shit happening that is really entertaining. So in that, but that's all done by the players. That's player agency. But these AAA titles that have this spoon-fed message about progressivism and transhumanism and feminism, they cost a lot of money because it's not only that they want video games to be movies, but they want the characters to be actors. They want voice actors to be celebrities. They want developers to be celebrities. They're like Neil Druckmann's not trying to be the next Gabe Newell or what's his name? The
Joss Whedon.
He wants to be Joss Whedon. He wants to be, George Lucas.
J.J. Abrams.
He wants to be J.J. Abrams, right?
Well, do you guys remember when he was on the red carpet? He was standing there like a moron, and no one
sad and dejected that no one would talk to him. Yeah,
that's what it is. That's what they want. He wants to be the next, fucking
Alex Kurtzman has really let himself go, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, it is a cast system though, where like they cast people into roles of this is the director, this is the producer. Hell, I'm a huge Nine Inch Nails fan, but Trent Reznor's in his 50s. He's got a huge family now, and he's kind of getting to that point to where he's got a tour coming out next year for score music for movies and things like that, specifically. And so I finally got to this point now where it's like, as much as I still love the music because he's very talented and everything like that, I'm probably not. Well, I'm certainly not going to pay to watch the new Tron because of my whole fuck Disney kind of thing. I'm not going to. I didn't really watch Watchmen, but I did get the vinyls when that came out. Like all this kind of stuff. Like because they do the soundtrack for this game, so there's one good thing in it. It will be the music. But that is, but that in of itself, they're relying on the brand of Nine Inch Nails, and they're calling it Nine Inch Nails specifically for that reason, because they're just trying to put as much sizzle on it, because there's probably not much stake here,
it's a new era, man. I mean, Expedition 33. I'm going to bring it up again, folks. The OST on that is incredible, and it came from a guy on SoundCloud.
Yep,
literally.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is that they want video games to have the same. It's not even they want it not only the influence of Hollywood, but they want the prestige. They see Hollywood as this very prestigious, high status thing. They want that. They don't want video games to be seen as like a thing for nerds. That's why a lot of these AAA developers, they hate the players, because the players are just people that like to play games, and they think that what they're making is art. And that's a whole other conversation that I've already had, but that's what they want to do. And this is why the AAA studios spend so much money on developing the games. It's not because they're developing the gameplay. A lot of these things ship buggy as fuck. It's because they're paying marketing, they're paying voice actors, they're paying writers, they're paying writing consultants, which I didn't get into the Sweet Baby Inc. thing that I think Gothic Therapy exposed, because I don't have time for that. But I do want to revisit that at some point. But it costs them so much money to make these games that if they don't sell a certain number of copies, they're going to lose money. And a lot of times they don't really care about that, because at the end of the day, it's about getting the message out there. And they're getting funded in the back door in more ways than one to get that done. But ultimately, this is the problem of the AAA space, which is why I'm always promoting the AA and the indie titles that are, well made. But so Neil Druckmann's doing the rounds. He's trying to promote his game because he doesn't like that it's been so ratioed. But I think that even the normies are awake to what's going on. So here's what he said on a podcast called Sacred Symbols, which I want to get into right now. But he said, I don't know if there is much I could add to that conversation, to be honest. There's stuff happening right now with media that you have to, I feel, ignore for the most part and just stick to your guns and do what you believe in. And I feel like that's how I would want artists to carry themselves. You know how this works, he continued. I can't tell you when we're going to announce or show something. I could just say I'm very, very excited for this game. maybe as excited as I've been for any game. It's very cool. It's the deepest gameplay we've ever done, and I can't wait to show it off. And I just want to point out that this is the first franchise by Neil Druckmann that is just him, because The Last of Us, even though Last of Us Part 2 went to shit, but the original like groundwork for that was not laid by him. That's why the first game is excellent, in my opinion. Minus the DLC, which I think that's when he got more involved, which I think I don't know about you, but I think it's weird when you have like underage girls making out in a video game. I'm just saying.
This guy is obsessed with lesbians.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I think he's into getting pegged. That's just what I think. But anyway, so what do you guys think about his statements? Is it cope? Is he worried? What do you guys think?
I'll let Ryan go ahead and he can start this one.
If he's not able nor willing as the director behind this project to show some things off, then he's either a puppet or he doesn't have anything to show off, and he's just talking out of his ass.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which is worse, him being a puppet and the puppet masters behind the scenes moving him along, or the fact that Intergalactic, the heretic prophet, what a fucking name, not in a good way, is just a bare bones cinematic trailer at this point.
All right. Yeah, no, my take on Druckmann is obviously, like we're saying, he's more interested in getting himself into Hollywood, and he's just using his association with Naughty Dog as a stepladder to get to that next rung. And he's compliant and pliable, and he's another foot soldier. He's willing to do what it takes, and as long as he's willing to do what those funding models are, kind of ultimately leading game development companies down the path of, then he will be supportive. He will be, and he will be supported by them because that's ultimately how he's going to stay relevant. And even if we sit here and say this guy isn't worth a damn in his creativity and everything that he did, took something that people actually loved and turned it to shit in no time flat, and we see him for what he is, they're still going to, as long as he doesn't have such a incredible, embarrassing fall from grace, they will keep doing those things. Because, and I know we're not going to get into it here totally, but just to kind of touch on the SBI stuff, that's what Kim Bel-Air is. She is a compliant and pliable cog in the wheel. She was spun out by Ubisoft specifically to infiltrate the AA independent space. Ubisoft, as we know, used to make about a game a week, was released, in years past. And then all of a sudden something shifted and changed. And that was this idea of being able to infiltrate, gaming for people like us that sit here and say, well, I want to stay away and avoid the AAA space. They go and they create this situation where it looks like there's a AA kind of game that you can get involved with. And it's actually still a AAA thing in the way that it's structured, the way that it's getting funded. And it's basically just a propaganda piece for global governance. And I totally think that Neil Druckmann is the kind of person who's willing to do that and go along for the ride and just be there, because ultimately he doesn't have a high degree of talent, skill, and ability, but he does have a lot. Exactly, but he does have a lot of ambition and high expectations on where he'd like to be in life. So, I think
he's a very. I think privately he's a very angry human being, and of course he's badgering right now. You can see it on him. So you got someone who's very, very angry personally, and he's getting to that point where he is badgering about, probably late 30s, early 40s, desperate to climb the greasy pole, and he's also desperate to make a name for himself. So he'll stab anyone in the back. He'll do whatever it takes to make a name for himself, and that's why this is the first time he is actually, putting a project forward on his own. It's usually other collaborations with other creatives on other projects. So you're going to really see this bitter, resentful, angry motherfucker who's badgering about pushing this project. and it's not going to work, and it's going to fall flat, and his career is going to be shattered as a result.
Yep.
Yeah.
'Cause even if this game sells moderately well, expect to see an intergalactic series on some streaming service within the next 5 years.
Yeah, I don't even
unless it completely flops. And
well,
even
that's
then,
yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, I was gonna say, and even then, it still might be a thing where, because as we said, he's more interested in being in Hollywood. If he can, because that's, I honestly believe, like, him going along with, well, let me be the creative director and this and that for the TV series, because he is trying to, climb the greasy pole, as Ryan puts it, so that he can actually get himself into that space. So, intergalactic, our pattern recognition, we see it for what it is. We called it out, immediately, and nobody really wants a goddamn thing to do with this, piece of shit of a property. But as long as the funding model's there and it does what it needs to marginally, then they still might try to platform it and astroturf it and act like, it'll be like one of those things where, 3 million players and so many days,
They'll definitely do that, because I don't think it's going to sell that well, but it won't matter, because I think you're right. I mean, this is what they did with The Last of Us. Why was there a TV show? Because he didn't feel like the game reached enough people, especially Last of Us Part 2. Because if you look at the sales, The Last of Us Part 1 sold like 4 times or more what The Last of Us Part 2 sold, because the word got out about where the story went. But the people who watched the show probably didn't play the game, and so they didn't know what was coming. And so the first season was all the first game, which, of course, I mean, I didn't watch it because I knew where it was going to go. But people got into it and they thought, oh, this is great. I it's like The Road, because that's what I thought of. If you ever read that book, The Road. And they stuck it out, and then like the second season happened, and it happened the way it was supposed to. And now the viewership of season 2 has completely plummeted, because in the same way the first game pissed people off, or the second game pissed people off, the second season pissed people off. And these people are committed to forcing the narrative, so they're gonna try again. Yeah. So I think that they, just like Concord, remember Concord was supposed to be a whole lifestyle brand. There's going to be shows and movies and merch and everything. And the game flopped in 11 days. So, but we'll see. So let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I'm going to move on to the next story. Okay. So,
men's rights activists are machines.
All right,
dude. Okay. They are literal machines. They are talking point.
Shut up, Hassan. All right, so Hassan Piker's in the news because he is a gamer, if you guys didn't know that. And he has been he has been doing bad things online. So in May of 2025, Jonathan Greenblatt, CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, publicly accused Twitch streamer Hassan Piker of promoting anti-Semitic rhetoric during a CNN segment addressing a shooting outside the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C., where 2 Israeli embassy staff were killed. Greenblatt claimed Piker regularly employs awful genocidal rhetoric against Jewish people and the Jewish state, referencing a New York Times profile and alleging Piker's statements contribute to violence, including the D.C. incident. He called for Piker's deplatforming on Twitch, arguing that extremists should not be empowered and that such rhetoric has deadly consequences. Greenblatt's accusation centered on Piker's criticism of Israel, which he framed as anti-Semitic, citing specific comments like Piker calling the shooter's actions genuine and alleging the described Zionists as rabid neo-Nazis, which is weird. Right? Okay. Piker responded by accusing Greenblatt of defamation, arguing that the ADL was attempting to silence critics of Israel. We do the Anti-Defamation League engaging in defamation? They can't, because they're the Anti-Defamation League. How is that possible? By conflating, I'm joking. I know that they can and do engage
more often than not.
More often than not. By conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, he denied promoting violence, asserting his criticism focused on Israel's actions, which he called a live stream genocide, and emphasized that blaming him for the shooting was baseless. The controversy sparks debate, with some supporting Greenblatt's call to address harmful rhetoric, while others, including Piker's supporters, viewed it as a smear campaign against a prominent pro-Palestinian voice, noting the shooter's motives predated Piker's influence. But what I thought was funny about this is more about how Jonathan Greenblatt the CEO. Is it they call him CEO or is it? Yeah, he's a CEO. So I guess the ADL is a company. Who would guess that they were
right.
profiting? But that he called him a dangerous radical gamer, and so this is like going to be an issue for all of us, no matter how you feel about Hassan, and that's why I chose this. But what do you guys want to say about this?
Well, I'll make it. Well, I'll make it pretty clear right here, right now, ladies and gentlemen, that I ain't no Jew lover, okay? But Hassan Piker is one hell of a shady individual. He's had quite the record. Let's just say that. I'm someone who's platformed a lot of controversial people in my time. As far as I'm aware, I've never platformed, people internationally recognized as terrorists. Like not just one or two nations. We're talking about at least a majority of planet Earth here. The guy is a champagne socialist. He has never ever built anything off of his own endeavors and has always had things handed to him. So no wonder he believes in the principles of socialism, despite the fact that in a socialist system he would not be allowed to engage in what he does within a command and control economy. In fact, media would be the ultimate or one of the ultimate pillars of socialist institutions. People can't have access to that. No, it must be commanded and controlled by the state. So the man is an arch hypocrite. And although most of his setup is probably made in China, Red China is living proof that communism may be a high-minded ideal. It's not very reality-based.
No.
No.
But again, this is he's another compliant and pliable foot soldier, ultimately, and he's also sitting on a huge, vast, access to wealth through his family alone, and all their dealings and all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, him in terms of who he is affiliated with, even though it is to a large degree kind of reprehensible. I mean, completely it is. I'm still always of the adage that the responsibility of anyone is based on the individual. I'm not really one for deplatforming people that oppose me or my beliefs or anything like that. So, because I think that Hassan, he kind of serves in some ways. It's kind of like how Alyssa Mercante, people are like, oh, I can't wait till she's gone. It's like, well, then there's just going to be someone new. And so at least this way you can kind of see how the situation works because you already know who the agent is and what their agency is for. And so you can actually look more at the issues themselves than trying to figure out who the bad actor at play is to begin with.
Well, you can use me as an example of that, John, despite the fact that I've been deplatformed. New people are going to spring up directly because of reality-based. I mean,
most definitely.
Nobody is an example of that. Discuss thing who's going to be on SNH is going to be another example of that. Of course, the platforming of the 40K Empress, ours are chats. There's yourself. There's so many examples.
Toasty,
and
of
that's
course.
just
And she's already seen success, yeah.
And, if I can do that, and this isn't the first batch of regulars that I've amassed. It's a constant process. It's like shuffling cards. And once you do it enough times, it becomes natural. But I want new generations to enter the fray. And that's why I focus on creative development. Deplatforming me hasn't stopped me from doing that.
No.
And it never will.
Yeah. And I just want to say that another reason why I brought this up too is because the ADL and the SPLC and Citizens United have the people I work with in my regular job. This isn't really a job because I don't get paid to do this, although it'd be nice. Over at Honey Badger Radio, where we are, men's rights activists, we talk about men's issues. They have added us to all of their lists for male supremacy and shit like that. So we're on watch list for the ADL. They consider us a hate group and people that we associate with. And so I know that where the purpose of that is ultimately to control who gets to talk about stuff. And I think that Hassan, or as people like to call him, Hamas Piker, what he does is he essentially gives the ADL and other groups like that the essentially the justification for censoring gamers. And somebody in the chat said that he went after that the ADL was going after Steam, and which I know is true because because the Steam store has like essentially you can make any game about anything you want. And they're really good about letting people do whatever. There's a lot of edgy stuff on Steam. It might not even be really great. I think there's a game called Tyrone Simulator, for example. I think you can imagine what that game is about. And of course, the ADL
game. There's also another game called Sex with Hitler.
Yeah, right. See, there's so hey, anybody in the chat, if you know of any extremely hilariously titled Steam games that you think would upset Jonathan Greenblatt, put them in the chat or add them in as a comment. But so ultimately,
can't wait for Auschwitz Simulator.
I remember, speaking of Auschwitz, so I remember somebody there was a game on the PlayStation 3, was it on the PS3? Little Big Planet, which had like completely customizable everything by Media Molecule. It was a super cute little platformer where they let you make your own levels, and it was completely innocent, and somebody made like literally it was essentially like Schindler's List, the game. Like they made that in
with
there. They even had
awesome.
the girl with the red dress, the red skirt or whatever. Like they made that, and because you can make whatever you want. So yeah, I think I don't remember what happened to it, but I imagine it got banned. But essentially, they don't the ADL and several three-letter organizations, CIA, USAID, all of these entities, they are highly interested in controlling the culture in some way. And historically, they did that already through Hollywood and TV and all that I've said before. But gaming is a unique space, just like social media, just like YouTube, and Rumble and stuff, where people can just make their own content, talk about whatever they want. And that's not cool because they want to control that. So Hassan essentially, with his stupid actions, has essentially equipped ADL with the reasoning for going after Steam. And and I mean, I when it comes to the Israel-Palestine thing, I think that there is criticisms of Israel and Zionism that are legitimate, and I have them. But I think that Hassan generally is like these college kids that are protesting, and they're not even sure what it is they're protesting. Because there's a different. Let me put it like this: the method or the reasoning is important, despite the fact that we're both doing the same thing. It's like if you're I don't know if you're like playing pool and you're like trying to get the ball into the corner pocket, but you miss it, but then the ball hits another ball and that ball goes into the side pocket. You got the ball in, it just wasn't like, it wasn't the way you wanted to do it. And I think that the difference between like college kids protesting against Israel and like those like lefty activists, so the difference between the leftist criticism and the rational criticism is that the rational criticism is looking at the history of Palestine, and they understand why we're in the situation we're in, and they understand where it is coming from, but they're not simply going brown people good, lighter people bad, which is where the left is getting it from. They see the state of Israel as an extension of the US, which they hate, and so that's why they're against it. You know what I mean? It's not rational.
Well, I can make an allegory of that whole situation, and John knows, I think he knows where he's going with this. It's like Alien versus Predator. Whoever wins, we lose.
We lose.
Exactly.
So it's a good job. It's an endless war that will end in a draw.
Right.
Why? Because one group will use hospitals as human shields, and the other will bomb the hospitals.
Right.
So,
well, I think that too, it's kind of a weird means to an end. That if you see, because the same people that protest the conflict between Israel and Palestine are all in the tank for supporting Ukraine in the conflict between Russia. And so I think that what they're trying to do is ultimately, regardless which ideological camp that you're kind of been radicalized to, ultimately you're still in support of the military industrial complex. And so, and then there's just people that are kind of outside of those extremes that just look at these situations just saying that, you know, it's fucking retarded either way. What the hell are we doing with any of this stuff? Like, you're dealing with situations that really don't have much to do with us, and it would be far better for us to just not be too involved or too concerned about it. But yeah,
it's not as if we isolate ourselves, right? I mean the West, hypothetically. Right. We isolate ourselves. We just sort out our own affairs. It's not as if Israel will be wiped off the face of the earth. And it's not as if Palestine will evolve into some Islamic superstate that will become a new Ottoman Empire. Okay, right. The Arabs, they're strong in numbers, but they don't have a brain between them. That's how Israel has been
inbreeding.
Right.
Yeah, that's how Israel have been able to batter them. It's not just Western support, folks. They actually think before they attack.
Right. And we're talking about a conflict that goes back to, like, you know, the times of the Bible, basically. And so, like, that shit ain't gonna change anytime soon. I
could get into that, but I won't. It definitely goes to the time of Christ. But all right. So let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. We're gonna move on to the last story. All right, so this is Mike Pondsmith. Mike Pondsmith is the creator of the Cyberpunk role-playing game, the tabletop role-playing game, of which I played, and I'm a big fan of.
A lot too.
And he is a consultant on. Oh, who does?
Oh, my nephew.
Cyberpunk's great. The tabletop game is great, and he was a consultant on Cyberpunk 2077 for CD Projekt Red. And we all know that there is a new Cyberpunk game coming out, a video game that is, and he is consulting on that. And it's called Cyberpunk Orion, or Project Orion for now. But here's the thing. Okay, this is a short one. Okay, so he revealed that the sequel, because he's involved in the creation, he revealed the sequel will feature a new city along Night City, describing it as feeling more like Chicago gone wrong. Have you been to Chicago?
Right.
What does that even look like?
Right.
What do you mean? And I think he's from Chicago.
What is
like
Chicago
originally
gone right?
Right.
Yeah, like what? Well, that's not Cyberpunk though. It's got to go wrong. But like,
I know what Chicago gone right is. It's Wakanda. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, a third of it is Wakanda.
Right.
But yeah. So Chicago gone wrong would be a great city. It'd be like peaceful and happy with good cops and all that. So basically, I think I know what he meant to say, but I just thought it was really funny that he used that as a way to describe it. So
right.
All right. I think that with that said, we should wrap it up because I know that you got to go, Ryan, because we're a little over time. So I'm going to end it there. But really quick, tell people where they can find you, and then we'll just end the show.
Well, you can find me, folks, over at Rumble at RRA1999. That's RRA1999. I've just released a few videos recently. Hopefully you will all enjoy them. Reality Based versus Chrono Trigger will be live in just under 2 hours' time. Gonna have to rush to set it all up, on Rumble and then connect to the StreamYard. I was thinking about not doing Chrono Trigger playthroughs anymore because YouTube kept hitting me with copyright claims. But thankfully, I'm not on YouTube anymore. So follow me on Rumble. That's capital R, capital A, 1999.
Indeed. Yeah. No, and not only can you be found on Rumble, but you are now the reality-based Rumble Revolution leader de facto, it seems, because you may not be how you necessarily wanted this to go. None of us wanted it to go, but that's what needs to happen. So yeah, definitely support Ryan over there. Please continue to support this channel on Rumble as well, because I do think that the long-term success for any of us as creators, especially in this space, who want to actually have open, intelligent conversations that get into the depth and the details. We're not going to be able to continue to do that on YouTube as time goes by because of their homogenization machine. But Yeah, for myself, see me throughout the week on Toasty with the Mosty at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, Sunday through Tuesday, Thursdays and Fridays. Of course, here on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. And then I'm also on Will of the Fans' channel, which is going to be really weird tomorrow without Ryan there. We start off at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific. Tomorrow will be Who TF Cares. And then we do WTF Live on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But with that said, I do thank everybody, especially all of the people that have joined us here on Rumble today. You are a quality audience, and I always find it more important to look for a quality audience than a quantity of audience, especially as we move forward. So thank you again for the great conversation, guys. Thanks for coming on and being a guest, Ryan, and fuck YouTube. Like it is an exploitation ghetto. And other than that, you all have a wonderful weekend going forward. Safe travels ahead, and be awesome as always.
All right. Well, with all that said, thanks, guys, especially those of you. 31 people on Rumble is the most I've ever had, so that's amazing. And I will definitely be getting Ryan on again for another conversation. We'll go deeper into some other things. So if you want to check that out, please consider subscribing or following me here on Rumble. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Thank you to my guests. If you like this video, please hit like, subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed in the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of The Week in Culture. And we will talk to you guys in the next one. Long live Vivian.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all, gamers.
I want people in the industry to be a little bit louder about people being mean to other people, and maybe say it's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe say we don't want you around if you're going to be a cunt.
Yeah.
And hateful. And that the games industry is diverse naturally. Not because anyone's making them be diverse. Because the world is diverse, you stupid motherfucker. And if you have a problem with that, come fight me. Physically. Bitch.
Has anyone taken you up on that yet?
No, because they're all pussies.
Yep.
Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt. And you breathe that in, and you can constantly taste the salt.